Hi guys, it's Erin. I'm glad you're here today. We're going to sow some echinacea seeds, and I wanted to walk you through step by step how to sow seeds to give yourself the best possible success rate for 2024. So the first thing I want to talk about is choosing your container. Today I'm going to use a 72 cell plug tray. It's pretty much my go-to for most everything that I grow, but there's other options out there. You can use pots if you want, little ones, big ones. There's also smaller seed or cell trays that can, this one's a 128, there's even smaller ones with higher seed counts. And then these great big ones, it's a 50 count tray, and they're, what, 3 or 4 inches tall. I use these when I'm growing sweet peas. The one thing that I would caution you when you decide what seed trays you want to use, or pots or what have you, is to make sure you read the labels or the seed packets, because some plants, like sweet peas, they shoot out a taproot that goes pretty deep pretty quick, and if you don't give them enough space in that seed tray, they're not going to thrive. So first things first, decide your seed trays or your pot, however you want to do it. And I'm going to use this 72 cell tray. So it's, like I said, it's my go-to. Set that off to the side. The next thing you want is to decide on your soil. For most everything that I grow, I like to use some kind of seedling mix. The reason for that is that when the seeds are just germinating and they're teeny tiny, the roots really need something easy and lofty that they can grow into. If you have heavy potting soil, or especially dirt from outside, a lot of times they will struggle to get their roots into the soil, and then they won't thrive as well. So this is what you want. You want it to be wet, but when you want it to hold its shape, but when you squeeze it, it's not dripping a bunch of water out of it. What can happen if you don't start with damp soil is your tiny seeds, when you do try to water the dry soil, you saw how much water it took to actually get this damp. It's hydrophobic, and the water that when you wet it down, it will pool on top, and sometimes it can dislodge your seeds, especially the type that you sow right on top, and they'll float away. Not ideal. Okay, then the next thing is to actually fill the tray. This is how I do it. Collect all the cells. Scrape it off. And then I will drop the tray a couple of times, and you can see that it dislodges the air pockets, and then you can see where you need to add some extra soil. You can also do that with your fingers if you want to just tamp them down. Just do it lightly so you don't compact the soil too much. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'm gonna go wash my hands. The next thing is to I always start by labeling. I have so many times forgotten to do this part and then lost whatever the seed was. I didn't know what it was until it grew big enough that I could tell. The first two leaves that come up are going to be cotyledons. They're not true leaves, so you won't be able to tell what it is from that. But even after that, a lot of these baby seeds or baby plants look the same. So it would take you a while. So label your seed tray before you really get started. The next thing that I do is I will take a look at the seed. Oh goodness. That'll tell me how big of a hole that I need to go. So the general rule of thumb is that you want the hole that you put the seed into to be 2 times the size of the seed itself. Some seeds, this is where going back to reading your seed packet and or Googling, Johnny's Selected Seeds website has a lot of really great information on how to actually sow the seeds, what kind of conditions every plant wants. But I will go in, these seeds, they probably need to be about 1/4 inch deep based on the size of the seed. So I will take a pencil or a chopstick or anything that's kind of narrow and small and just insert and make a little hole that I can put the seeds into. Okay, so then I will take my seed, I don't have anywhere near this number of seeds. I did start some winter sowing method earlier this season. So I take the seed and just put it into that little hole that I just made. Okay. And then I'm going to do the other ones in this row. Once you've got them all placed, then you can just gently cover them back over with the soil that's on top. So the next thing that I would normally do, if it's a teeny tiny seed, I would take behind it and water with this spray bottle and just gently water it down just to settle the seed into the soil, because the little teeny tiny like snapdragons, they are too small. You're not going to bury them. You set them in on top, press them in, and then I like to spray them down just to make sure that they're in a good spot. The next thing that I do, and this is optional, but for me it works really well, is to cover everywhere that you put seeds with vermiculite. Now, what this will do is it will help control the moisture in your seedling tray. It'll help to combat any kind of fungus from growing, but it'll keep the moisture in there, so it's less likely to dry out on you. It's very important to maintain the moisture level at least until that they have all sprouted and gotten up through their first set of true leaves. Okay, and then the last thing that I do at this stage is to cover it with a humidity dome. This also helps to prevent the seedlings from drying out. It'll keep the moisture inside of there. It's like a mini greenhouse. So I put this on until I see maybe half or more of the seedlings emerge. And then I'll take it off so that it helps to prevent any kind of mold or mildew growing in the tray. So from this point, this will go over onto my heat mat under lights. So because I grow most things in a somewhat minimally heated greenhouse, I need to supplement the heat, at least especially during germination. The heat mats that I have, I will put this on there and it'll maintain the soil moisture at around 70 degrees, which is optimal temperature for most seedlings to grow and sprout. But the same as with the humidity dome, when I see that most of the seedlings have come up, I will remove the humidity dome, take them off of the heat mats, and then put them on a different shelf on my, and I'll show you in a second, the rack that I'll put them on a different shelf that has lights but no extra heat. There are lots of different needs that seeds have when they're germinating and then growing on. Many of them, like stock and snapdragons and echinacea, actually, they want to sprout at a warmer temperature, but then they want to grow on cooler. They want to be between 60, 65 degrees to grow and get strong in the early part of the season before it starts to heat up and then they shoot up and do their thing. So it's another plug for reading your seed packets and or going onto a website like Johnny's or just Googling it for the best care for whatever seedlings it is that you're growing. And if you're growing in your house, the ambient temperature is generally warm enough to, without any extra supplemental, to get them germinated. Most people's houses are around that 70 degrees. Now, I grow in a greenhouse, so I grow under lights this time of year because it's winter. However, if you are growing in your house, you don't necessarily need extra lighting. If you put the seedlings in a south-facing window that has a good exposure and can get sun most of the day, you can usually get away with it. They may strain and get a little leggy trying to reach for that sun. You can help combat that by turning the tray back and forth so that it evenly gets the sun. But I still, in our area, Washington State Zone 8B, I still recommend some supplemental light because especially in the winter, we're so high up we're so far north that the amount of sun exposure that we get is very minimal, and then we're gray and cloudy all the time, especially in the winter. So if you live around here, I would recommend getting some lights, and you don't necessarily have to get the industrial looking lights. I don't know if you can see them behind me. The industrial looking, long shop light looking setup. There are some really nice actual lamp looking heat lamps that you can get out there now that you can put it in your house and it doesn't look like it's a grow light. It just looks like a lamp. And then the last thing I wanted to talk about was fertilizer. So this seed starting mix of soil doesn't have much for nutrients to start off with. The seedlings don't need a whole lot right away. The seed itself has what it needs to get itself going. But after I get two or three sets of true leaves on the seedlings, depending on the plant, I will start to fertilize. I use an organic fish fertilizer that when they're still tiny, I'll dilute to half strength. When they get bigger, I'll use full strength. But again, I'm going to keep saying it. Read up on the plants that you're growing, because echinacea, for instance, doesn't want to be fertilized. It thrives on neglect. These are some of the easiest plants to grow once you get them established. They're drought tolerant. They don't want to be fertilized. They just kind of do their thing all by themselves. Okay, so now I'm going to go put this on the light tray and I'll show you what that looks like. This is my setup. I have there's 4 shelves with lights, and right now, look at these geraniums, they are happy. I have my eucalyptus and lisianthus in these 3, and then this is the one that we just planted. My lights will run, they're on a timer for about 14 hours a day to make sure that they get enough light for actual growth. Okay guys, I know this was long, but I'm glad you stuck with me through the entire thing. If there was anything that I missed that you still have questions about, please leave a comment in the comment section. I'm real excited for this season, and I will post videos walking through different types of seeds that I'm going to grow and the specifics on each one as I do that. I'm so glad you guys are here. I'm thankful for your support. If you are new to the channel, I encourage you to consider hitting the subscribe button. Yeah, I am so excited. I can't wait for more of this. I will see you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.